equity, it annoys me.
Yes. So how do you feel about the that's unstable. I was going to say unhinged. Unstable islands and unstable basics.
It's the first time seeing them.
Okay.
They seem cool. They're at least distinct.
They look pretty good on camera, I think.
They're unobtrusive.
Serum Vision's here from Kenny as he's going to scribe both cards to the top. Boggemes thinking about firing off something on the end step here with that snow-covered mountain. It's going to be a lightning bolt. Let's get this party started.
And it appears that Kenny is on 5 cards.
Okay, well that's helpful for Kyle as Kenny's going to fall down to 17. Boggemes will draw. Boggemes is going to fall down to 18. He'll play a Sacred Foundry untapped, and he'll simply pass the turn back. We're going to go over to Kenny now. Flooded Strand, pass that turn back. Kyle is going to fire off, it looks like maybe another burn spell here. Looks like he has at least 1 copy of Lightning Helix in hand, potentially 2. And now he'll play a Lightning Helix. So Kyle's going to go up to 21. And we'll see, assuming this resolves, of course, which it will, Kenny's going to fall down to 14. Multiple copies of Helix in the hand here for Kyle. Kenny 14, Boggemes 21. If you're not getting updates consistently, please let me know. A Goblin Guide here on turn 3 from Kyle.
So now this is the first real decision that Kenny's been presented with. He can't cast the Lightning Helix because of his basic island. So now the question is he going to take his lumps from the Goblin Guide and just get a dual land tapped here? Or is he going to bolt the Goblin Guide and go get something like Sacred Foundry and take the 2 points?
So Kenny's going to crack his Windswept Teeth. That's going to bring him down to 13. And in response, Kyle has paused him, because this might be an opportune time to fire off a burn spell and not have to worry about a counter spell.
Right, you're not playing around, Mana Leak, Logic Knot, Negate. There's a variety of counter spells.
Remand, maybe, yeah, who knows.
Yeah, there's a variety of counter spells here. And if you're going to cast it, you might as well cast now.
So Kyle's going to fall down 20 from sacrificing the Aired Mace, so we'll see how low he wants to go. He's going to get another snow-covered mountain, so he'll stay at that 20. He'll shuffle, present to Mike here in just a moment. Again, we know that Kyle has at least 1 more copy of Lightning Helix in hand, potentially a second one, which would be his 3rd one of the game. Realistically, Patrick, and you can correct me if I'm wrong since you are the burn master here in the booth, all these burn spells kind of just end up being the same. They're all just kind of 3 damage spells for the most part.
Boros Charm is your big outlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Kyle's trying to work himself through counter magic. So here is a Lightning Helix. Looks like this is going to resolve as well. So Kyle up to 23, Kenny down to 10, and now Kenny's going to get to search up this land that he wanted to find with the Windswept Teeth. We'll see exactly which land he wants to get. And it would be a little bit painful to get a shock land here, but it looks like that's what he's going to have to do. So he's going to fall down to 8.
He also just might need a source of red and white mana. And if you're bolting here to kill the Goblin Guide, you're kind of saving the 2 damage from combat anyway.
There's your Goblin Guide trigger. That's a Snapcaster Mage. Here is the bolt that you mentioned. So Kenny's going to draw that Snapcaster Mage. He'll play a Sulphur Falls untapped and simply pass the turn back over to Boggemes. Boggemes will draw a card now. It'll be Kyle's 4th turn of the game. Pro Tour runner-up, plenty of Grand Prix top 8s on the resume for Kyle Boggemes. Very skilled player. We see some top 8s and invitational top 8 for him on the SCG Tour as well. Burn, an interesting selection as he prepares to get ready for Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan just a couple of weeks over in Bilbao, Spain. This might be a good testing ground to see if he likes this deck for that weekend.
It will be a sub-theme this weekend. I mean, Modern's a very heavily iterated format. So it's not like this is the only source of information for the Pro Tour, as opposed to some of the standard opens we do on release weekend with the Pro Tour the next couple weeks away.
Yeah.
But it is a large Modern event. And the Pro Tour is very nearly here.
It's going to be here sooner than you think. And it looks like Boggemes is just going to pass the turn back. Maybe a little scared of Spell Queller. Not really sure there's anything he can do about Lightning Helix. And of course he knows that Kenny has a Snapcaster Mage, so Snapcaster Mage plus Bolt is an option. Now here is Lightning Helix going to go straight upstairs. Skullcrack is going to take care of that, actually. That's timely there for Boggemes.
And normally I don't like this play here from Kenny. I would be happy to just untap and make a land drop. But if Kenny feels like he doesn't care that much about the Lightning Helix because he can untap and then Snapcaster the Helix, then he doesn't care that much about Skullcrack.
Well, both players end up taking 3 there, so should be 17-5 now at this point. Kenny's going to sacrifice this land. Looks like he might be falling down to 4. So there's Snapcaster Mage on Lightning Helix. That's part of the reason, as you mentioned, Kenny was happy to be able to have this interaction happen, I would say.
I still think from Kenny's side, I would prefer to just untap, because now the line that he took, 1, it exposes him to Skullcrack to some extent, and 2, it exposes him to Searing Blaze as well.
Sure.
Because he's committed on his turn. If you have a land in hand, you have your land drop for next turn, my preference, I think, is just untap and say go. You're covered there, but Kenny's taking the line that he's taken and was still able to get his Helix to resolve.
Eidolon the Great Revel is going to come down. Snapcaster Mage coming across for 2. Boggemes not interested in blocking at this point, so Kyle's going to fall down to 15. Talk to me about Eidolon in this matchup. How good of a card here? Because it's going to die a lot.
It dies a lot, and sometimes you're behind, but this matchup is bad enough that you need things that can do some heavy lifting.
Okay.
It's not good all the time, but it has such a high ceiling, and the matchup is bad.
That is a Lightning Bolt. There will be a trigger there from the Eidolon, which means Kenny's going to take 2. He's going to fall down to 5. The Eidolon will go to the graveyard. Boggemes looking at a Helix. Looks like he might have another copy of Eidolon, too. Kenny, as you mentioned, started this game off, we believe, with 5 cards. So not a lot of ammunition there for Mike.
This is where you got to do some bobbing and weaving, because Kenny here is representing a variety of things. For example, Snapcaster Mage allows him to access Lightning Bolt. He could have Cryptic Command. He could have Spell Queller. So how you time things and what you're playing around here, very complicated from Boggemes' side. Even though it looks like all he can do is just cast burn spells, what else am I going to do? There's so many reactive cards that Kenny can have here that you have to be really thoughtful about how you sequence everything.
Inspiring Vantage there from Kyle. That lands in the battlefield tapped, given that it's not land number 1, 2, or 3, and Kyle's just going to pass that turn back.
And even that Inspiring Vantage is complicated, because do you want to save it in your hand in case you draw Searing Blaze?
Sure.
Or do you think you need the extra mana right now? And that depends on what Boggemes is playing around.
Well, Snapcaster Mage is going to come across there for 2, and Kenny's going to play a Spell Queller on this Lightning Helix that Kyle does fire up on the end step. So Spell Queller will take care of the Helix. We'll go back over to Kyle. He'll draw a card. Eidolon, and he drew a Searing Blaze. That's exactly what you talked about.
But his hand, it looked like, was Lightning Helix plus Eidolon the Great Revel. So you respect the feeling that I've got to have 4 mana because I have 2 2s in my hand, right? But now he's drawn the Searing Blaze, and that's the cost of playing the Inspiring Vantage.
Yep.
So it's very complicated stuff.
And now what's tough is I think that Kyle wants to play this Eidolon, but this Eidolon's not particularly good in this spot. I think it's okay.
So what I like about the Eidolon here is you're not at risk of dying the next turn. And then if you're able to get an attack in, now he's on 3, and now a land kills him because it turns on your Searing Blaze, and just about any spell kills him as well.
Yep.
I mean, if you play the Eidolon and it resolves, it's really risky for Kenny to go untap, attack you for 4, say go. He kind of needs to have Cryptic Command to justify that play. And if he's only attacking you with the 1 creature, well, you've got a lot of time to draw a spell or a land. Because remember, a land, in the ideal world, you kill the Spell Queller, that unlocks your Helix, and now you have lethal.
Yep. Kenny going to very quickly draw and play a Steam Fence tapped. You see the Snapcaster Mage and the Spell Queller. Snapcaster's going to kind of come across. Now that's the only thing that's attacking, not Spell Queller. And it looks like Kyle has no interest in blocking. So we'll head back over to Boggemes, who did draw a land, an Inspiring Vantage. That is going to turn on Searing Blaze's landfall. And he says, I want to go to you and that Spell Queller. Kenny's going to read Searing Blaze, so we'll take a look at it.
And noteworthy here that you can't kill your own creature to fizzle it, because Searing Blaze has 2 targets, both the player and the creature. And if Kenny casts a Lightning Bolt to kill a Spell Queller, that triggers the Eidolon, and all this unlocks the Helix anyway.
Yep.
So unless Kenny has, basically he needs either Lightning Helix or Cryptic Command to survive that sequence. And based on attacking with just the Snapcaster Mage last turn, I don't believe he has either, and there's the game.
So, Kyle Boggemes is going to win game number 1 here over Mike Kenny. A timely 5th land, not something you want to do with Burn much, draw 5 lands, but a 5th land helps him win that game.
Well, he worked himself into a spot where either lands or spells were good draws, and he drew one or the other.
Well, these players are going to go to the sideboard. We'll be doing the same here in just a moment, but first, a few messages from our sponsors.
Your round 2 pairings are being posted at the Black Gathering Point. Please make your way to your seats again. 10 a.m. Modern Challenge. Your round 2 pairings are going up.
Well, while we wait for those messages, we'll actually turn our attention to the sideboards now. We'll start with Kenny, who will be on the play here for game number 2. 2 Dispel, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Pian Kiran Nalaar, and a whole bunch of one-ups here, Patrick, and a Braid, Crumble to Dust, Celestial Purge, Engineer Explosives, an Instant Static Caster, a Jace Architect of Thought, Kozilek's Return, a Negate, and a Supreme Verdict. Already a pretty good matchup for Mike. Wasn't able to get game 1, but I imagine things get even better now.
So there's a lot of different approaches you can take to sideboarding here. I think the only locks here are the 2 Dispels and the 1 Negate. I think the counter spells are very good. There's a lot of marginal removal spells that you could bring in here, but I think the bolts and the paths are better than the 2-mana options like a Braid and Celestial Purge. You can bring in the Engineered Explosives because it's pretty efficient removal, and it covers you in the event that he has some oddball, troublesome permanent like Shrine of Burning Rage.
Other side of things here for Boggemes, 4 Searing Blood, 3 Shattering Spree, 2 Molten Rain, 2 Path to Exile, 2 Rest in Peace, a Grim Lavamancer, and an additional copy of Skullcrack here for the matchup.
On the draw, I would just only bring in the Skullcrack, maybe the Lavamancer if you wanted to cut a couple copies of Goblin Guide, which is not very good in this matchup. But I think on the draw, I wouldn't consider Molten Rain to be any good. The paths, the Rest in Peace, the Shattering Sprees, and the Searing Bloods, I think are no good.
So not a lot for Kyle to bring in here at all.
The Skullcrack, I think, is excellent. I want the 4th copy. The Lavamancer, I could take it or leave it. I think it's better than Goblin Guide on the draw, but I could also see sticking with just the 1 copy.
Well, you know, this is kind of an interesting matchup because Kyle's able to steal game 1, basically. Feels like a bit of thievery.
Well, 5-card hand from Kenny. I wasn't thrilled with the sequencing there.
Okay.
Also, I think that if Kenny just passes the turn and doesn't cast the Helix, I think his position is a lot stronger. But a bit of an upset, even on 5 cards. When I saw Kenny had a Helix and a Snapcaster Mage, I still thought he was a favorite that game. But Boggemes with some really tight sequencing, a couple good draw steps, and he was able to take game 1.
Well, as these players do shuffle up here for game number 2, Mike Kenny will be on the play. We'll talk about the StarCityGames.com holiday sale. It will Kenny and Kyle Boggemes. We'll get ready here for game number 2.
Well, I got to check to see if we got anything.
Yeah, I was going to transition over to our bingo cards. That's what I was going to do.
I think the answer is no. Goblin Guide showed Snapcaster Mage on the 1 attack.
Yeah, no land reveal.
Card is cast off suspend. There were no Rift Bolts. Counter and draw Cryptic didn't happen. Transform didn't happen.
No spell cast in the draw step, right?
No expeditions or inventions. No spells in the draw step.
Yep.
I think I got nothing here.
Man, you're so unlucky. I know I got nothing. I don't have anything really burn or Jeskai related. And I did not have. I have player cycles a card, but I don't know what cycles in this format. Oh, Living End, right? Okay. Maybe we'll get to that.
Some of my Scapeshift opponents have had a copy or 2 of Shelter Thicket in their deck.
Yeah, that's in there. Okay. So not a ton of cycling, but a little bit.
There's the new As Foretold deck with the River Snake, whatever that thing is.
River Serpent. Oh no, there's it's the big one, the hexproof one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I hope we see that deck. That deck's actually picking up on some popularity a little bit. It's actually I lost to it on Magic Online last week.
Yeah, I watched a video of it but I couldn't follow what was going on, so I turned it off. Hopefully,
Nice.
hopefully it doesn't show up.
That's a good sell. It's a good sell of the deck. Thanks, man. A Celestial Colonnade is where Kenny's going to start. I couldn't figure out what's going on. Is great. Here's a Goblin Guide card. You don't love in the matchup, but Kyle's kept in. Flooded Strand is the reveal, which means that you get to bingo.
It's not. I don't like Goblin Guide in the matchup, but you rarely have enough good cards to bring in that you have the luxury of cutting it.
For Kenny, he's going to play an island after the Colonnade. Most importantly here, no red mana here from Mike so far. Kyle's got to be at least somewhat happy about that.
Well, the guide revealed Flooded Strand, so he has access to it if he wants it.
There's Geist of St. Traff. Looks like Kenny's going to take 2 more. And Kyle, I believe, might just be passing the turn here. We'll see. Kenny waiting patiently to see what's going to happen if he's going to get his 3rd turn with just this Goblin Guide on the battlefield.
Men's Scarcella to the main event stage, please. Men's Scarcella to the main event stage.
Boggemes might be considering another creature. Yeah, he's going to sacrifice Wooded Foothills.
And this is a very hard representation of a counterspell.
Yeah.
Post-board, though, a lot of their counterspells are things like anti-spell measures, like Dispel and Negate. And Kenny doesn't have a card in his graveyard, so Lodge Knot's not an option. So this is a pretty good spot to try to land an Eidolon.
Well, there is that land and Eidolon. Pretty good prediction by you. Well, it's going to resolve, so we're going to head back over to Kenny now. You know, no shift in body language there as we take a good look. Is this just going to be a Geist? Okay, fair enough.
This is a race that's very good for Boggemes here.
Yep.
He goes to 14 off of the Eidolon trigger.
Yep.
And if he's blocking, that's okay. And if he's not blocking, that's
also
okay.
okay.
That's okay too.
Boggemes' hand is chock full of goodies there. You can see a 3rd land. There's a Boros Charm. There's a Lightning Helix. He's just going to start by attacking. Goblin Guide trigger will reveal Scalding Tarn, so that's going to go to Kenny's hand. Goblin Guide has been very nice for Kenny, except for the fact that it's dealing him 2 points of damage every turn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Kenny would put the lands back and take the guide out of Boggemes' opening hand,
Yep.
were that an option.
I have to imagine the Geist of St. Traff is on blocking duty here. Wow, are we just going to full-blown race?
I mean, if Kenny's hand has a 4th land and just a bunch of cryptics, you can talk me into no blocks here. This also might be a spot where Kenny just feels, if I block here, I'm still going to 12 and I have nothing and Boggemes' hand is loaded. He might have to take a risky line here. But if he doesn't have a lot of helixes or cryptics to follow up with, he's in a ton of trouble, even if he has interaction, because this Eidolon's going to be triggering a bunch of times.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Difficult spot here for Mike Kenny as he just took that 4 right away. Now Boggemes has the opportunity to resolve some spells,
Yep.
which is obviously quite nice. You can see he has a Lava Spike, Grim Lavamancer, Boros Charm, Bloodstained Myers, land number 3. I think we'll see that fetch land come down here in just a moment as Kyle's doing a little bit of math here. You have to imagine he knows he's ahead, just wants to cement that advantage. So here comes Lava Spike. Trigger from the Eidolon's going to bring Boggemes down to 17. I guess he does have to be a little bit cognizant of his own life total because of that Eidolon that's out there.
And that's why this turns a little bit tricky, because Kenny said no blocks. That to me is the sign of someone who is trying to race alongside cryptic commands. So if your creatures are getting tapped and you're taking 6 damage a turn, it might be tricky to finish off the game with some burn spells. So even though this position's really good for Boggemes and it looks like a no-brainer what you're going to be doing here, he still has to be mindful of what happens if Kenny just has 4th land and cryptic you a bunch of times and hit you for 6.
6 is a lot.
Especially when you're trying to play spells through your own Eidolon.
Ooh, boy. Another Eidolon here from Boggemes. Pass the turn back. Let's go back over to Kenny. Kyle's going to fall down to 14. Mike's on 7. And we know Mike has land 4 because of Goblin Guide. That part's obvious. But is it a Cryptic Command party? That's the question. There's your Flooded Strand. Well, he's play one way. Get in there, make an angel. And
in this spot, I think I like a block here from Boggemes because you just gotta. The way you lose this game most likely is just Cryptic Command kills you.
Just getting raced?
Yeah.
Okay.
So unless you actually literally have him dead if he Cryptics you on your turn, because you can finish off with the 7
With the burn
points.
spells, yep.
Or 6 points now because it has to be Flooded Strand activated to do it. The math here is really tight. Boggemes actually has to calculate down to the 1 point whether or not he can afford to take this hit.
Kyle's going to take the 6. He's going to fall down to 8.
But now this puts him at just dead to Cryptic because he can't cast 2 spells unless one is Lightning Helix. Because he dies to the Eidolon triggers. If he has Helix plus a small spell, then he's fine.
Well, he does have Helix in hand. He's also got Boros Charm. I see a Grim Lavamancer there too. So you mentioned it. Cryptic Command could be the big issue here. And I mean, look at how Kenny's sitting. The 4 mana. You know that familiar look.
Yep. That's why if Boggemes didn't actually have it rolled up. Oh, okay.
If he gets to attack, which he does, well, we found Cryptic Command.
Wow.
There it is. Kenny's just going to take 6? Yeah, Kyle's happy to pass priority. Yeah, you're at 1. Go. You really can't play that. You can't crack that fetch. You can play a land. Okay, sure.
But now it's actually really bad for. Now it's actually rough for Boggemes here because Kenny can cast a Cryptic Command.
Oh, sure.
And he can't cast anything. So I suppose if it's. Yeah, now if Boggemes takes his hit, he's just locked out by his own Eidolons.
He just went to. Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, this was.
Yeah, does he just die?
Yeah, now he's just dead.
He just can't. There's nothing he can do to win, right?
Yeah. Now, Kenny has the Cryptic, and that's that.
Why did he? Wow.
Setting aside any of the tactical minutia from the last few turns, I think Boggemes should have just traded off the Eidolon for the.
Just a couple turns ago. Because this is the only way he can lose.
This is the way he loses.
Yeah, this is the only way he can lose, what you mentioned right from the start. So Mike Kenny is going to win game number 2 here over Kyle Boggemes. Jeskai Control is going to beat Burn. A bit of a misstep there by Boggemes.
He also could have just cast a spell on the upkeep.
Yeah, when he saw Cryptic Man get revealed, he can just try to burn him out.
Because if he plays something 3 or less, he dies to the Eidolon triggers. And if he plays, if he has to cast something 4 or greater, he has to crack a Flooded Strand, which he can't afford to do at 1. But once Kenny is disabled, untap and put a mountain on the battlefield, now he's covered.
Yeah.
And that's how it broke.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, these players are going to shuffle up here for game number 3. So now we'll get those messages from our sponsors, and we'll come back for that 3rd and final game. Game 3 about to be underway here between Mike Kenny, Kyle Boggemes, Jeskai Control, Burn. I think Kyle may, a little laughter now, I think he may have realized just pretty bad mistake there in game 2. Happens, it's early.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was the strategic call of whether or not you want to trade with the Eidolon there. My instinct is to trade with the Geist, but I can respect wanting to take a different line. And then there's the tactical call of how you sequence things, which I think Kyle just kind of messed up there in the last turn. Can he have anything in his graveyard?
No.
Like, could he have Logic Knotted for 2? to counter a burn spell and avoid the Eidolon trigger.
So he had a fetch, but he was at 1.
But he didn't have anything in his graveyard, right?
Correct.
He just went turn 3 Geist and no fetching?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think Kyle is in the clear if he just casts on the upkeep.
I mean, seems like he just overthought himself. Looks like Kenny's going to go down to 6 here, while Kyle's going to be on the play. Might be happy with his 7.
Although, I'll try to talk to Kyle after this match and see what was going on there. Part of it is these Jeskai decks have so many different cards. I play against all sorts of things all the time, that there might have been a card that he was playing around in that spot that isn't on my radar, something that avoids an Eidolon trigger somehow. So I'm curious if there's just some card that he thought could be in Kenny's hand or deck that was just not on my radar in that spot.
All right, Kenny's going to keep. He'll scry. He'll keep it on top. We're underway. Boggemes very quickly going to play a Monastery Swift Spear, sacrificing Arid Mesa, fall down to 19 as he gets himself a snow-covered mountain. Over to Mike we go. He kept this card on top. It was a Sulphur Falls. He'll play a Flooded Strand and simply pass the turn back over to Boggemes. Kyle B is untapping and drawing. Remember, he kept 7, Kenny kept 6. This will be another Swift Spear. See if this resolves, and it will. It's an attack here for 2. Kyle Boggemes does not have land number 2.
Keep 1 land with this deck a ton.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Okay. I mean, it's a deck that doesn't mulligan particularly well.
Especially in this matchup where it's not that hard for this deck to blunt your creatures.
Mm-hmm. That's a Celestial Colonnade.
Good sign for Boggemes here.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the doors open to resolve something, especially if he draws land number 2, which he did. And he drew a copy of Goblin Guide. He could also fire off a copy of Lava Spike. I think I like getting the creatures out here, though.
I like getting the creatures out here. This play right here of playing the guide and then having the Lava Spike in your hand next turn is so much better if Kenny untaps and plays Geist Saint Draft.
Yeah.
Because then you're hitting for 9. He has no real good blocks.
There's a Sulphur Falls. Let's go back over to Kyle. Can you find that second land? Yeah, no, he picked up an Eidolon. Well, for Kenny, you know one thing. He's got all spells.
Yes.
He's got all spells. That part's obvious. Boggemes trying to figure out how he wants a sequence. Again, remember, he's got the Lava Spike, but he's staring against the Jeskai opponent, and this is always tough, that has 3 mana. So here's a Lava Spike. There'll be 2 Prowess triggers. There's Spell Queller. Kyle had to I imagine he saw that one coming. Swift Spirits are still eligible to attack because they're 2/3s. Spell Quellers are 2/3. So you can get some damage in.
Yeah.
The face shot on Kyle, he's the active player.
I don't know. I think my preference in that spot would have just to play the Lavamancer post-combat. It's really hard for Kenny to try to elephant ambush you and just block with the Spell Queller, because if you have Lightning Bolt, it's
bad
dead.
news. Yeah.
And the odds that he has a Spell Queller there are pretty high with him not doing anything for the first few turns.
Mm-hmm. Scalding Tarn and simply pass the turn back. Lightning Bolt is the draw here for Kyle Boggemes. Has to be wary of another Spell Queller at this stage. Kyle's deck has not cooperated insofar as it has not coughed up a second land. Now Boggemes has some serious thinking to do about how to get himself out of this situation.
Well, I would declare, first order of business is declare attackers and see if you induce a Cryptic Command out of Kenny. It's unlikely, but there's some chance.
Okay.
Assuming he doesn't cooperate, probably just saying go here. I could see playing the Lavamancer as well, but I think you've got to just make some land drops and be in a spot where you can go do something at the end of his turn, untap, and do something. Try to overwhelm his mana a little bit.
All right, so here comes Swift Spears. So we're going to see the Lightning Bolt, obviously. He's going to target Mike. Mike's going to spell color this too. Now, one thing that will happen is 2 damage will get through, and then the Swiss Spear won't die. So, you know, he does get a little bit of damage through. Does Kyle?
This is just a really tough way to do it.
Yeah.
When you're at a neutral position, I just don't like firing into their open mana unless you can sequence multiple things in a turn to try to overwhelm their mana. Just firing spells into 4 open mana in a spot where you aren't ahead, that just doesn't work very frequently against this deck in my experience. They have too much cheap interaction, they have too many counter spells, too much 1 mana removal. The odds that path is fruitful, I think, is just really low.
Kenny going to sacrifice that Scalding Tarn.
It's particularly important because of Spell Queller. That card, if you can just kill it, it's very medium in the matchup. If it actually ends up eating a spell and is a blocker over the long term, that's an incredible amount of value. So trying to mitigate that card's impact is a big deal.
Oh, here's Geist of St. Traff now. The card that won Kenny game number 2 is looking to win him game number 3. As Kyle's deck has finally coughed up a land, folks. It's a snow-covered mountain, it looks like.
Which does not unlock the helixes in his hand.
Yeah, those are the important ones.
Well, I just don't know if he has a 2-mana spell to cast besides the helixes.
I think he has Eidolon in his hand, but, you know, I
well, specifically spell because of the Swiss Spears.
Sure, okay. That makes sense.
Because if you play Eidolon, I mean, it's not even very good here. Kenny's kind of ahead on the table. If you had something, if you could resolve a removal spell for the Spell Queller, then it gets really good because, you know, you play a spell, in theory it resolves. You kill the Spell Queller with Bolt underneath of it. The Bolt's unlocked. The Bolt then kills the other Spell Queller. The Spike gets unlocked. All of these trigger prowess. And it is this domino effect. But if his hand is only Eidolon, you know, it's not even clear Kenny has to counter it if he has something like Spell Snare. He might play through it.
Yep. He's thinking Lavamancer. Or at least he was. This burn deck harder than people think.
Yeah, no, you have no margin for error.
There's also that.
Your cards aren't good enough.
Yeah, there's also that. All right, here's Eidolon of the Great Revel.
And you can see some of the hesitation in casting it because Kyle is not even confident that Kenny would counter it if he could.
Spell Snare does counter the Eidolon as we head back over to Mike. He's picked up a Flooded Strand. Mike looks like he might be flooding just a little.
Well, he does have a Colonnade, so he at least has something to do with all of his mana. And Colonnade is, burn decks don't kill it and don't block it. It's 4 toughness and it's flying, so one of the better cards in the matchup if the game drags a little bit.
Yep.
The question here, I think Kenny has a Bolt in his hand and a Path, and now the question is just, do you want to just Bolt the Guide and start getting busy with your Geist of St. Traff?
Well, he wants to start getting busy. With Spell Queller, at least. And now Geist, which, of course, brings along an Angel. Well, you're looking to turn up the heat a little bit here, folks. You want to trade with this Geist? We saw last game.
What's the plan here that involves not racing?
Yeah.
You basically have to think that Kenny is on nothing, and if you rip a removal spell for the Spell Queller, you can start making everything fall apart.
Triple block here by Kyle B.
And if Kenny's hand, if I'm looking correctly, has Path and Bolt in it, I'm just clearing out 2 blockers here and keeping the Geist around.
Keep your Geist, yeah.
You still have a Spell Queller back on defense in the event that Boggemes plays a haste creature, and it's just so likely with the Colonnade and the Geist that you finish off the game next turn. And there isn't too much cause for concern with the Path here. One is, not all burn decks have the 3rd mountain, so you might be getting it on the house. And the other is, the bottleneck here has to be white mana. That's what you care about the most. if you're pathing here, it's Searing Blaze isn't in the equation because you're not triggering landfall on his turn with mana available. And if he doesn't have a Plains, then Boros Charm and Lightning Helix aren't in the equation. So what's he really doing with this third mountain? Probably not all that much.
Well, Boggemes has drawn a copy of Skullcrack.
And another interesting advantage of pathing there, it cuts off Inspiring Vantage. He
That's
won't
true.
have white mana on his own turn.
That's true. It's a small thing, but a big deal.
It's possible Boggemes should have failed to find.
Yeah.
Because of the Inspiring Vantage. It's hard to give up the land when you're land screwed. It's a reflex,
Yeah,
right?
you've been land screwed the entire game.
But there's an argument there for not getting the land, so you're still appealing to Inspiring Vantage.
Yep. Boggemes looking at another copy of Eidolon, which is not great right now.
Because in the ideal scenario where you actually unlock everything, you're back in the game. If you kill the Spell Queller, you kill the other Spell Queller, and you unlock a spike, you might actually have a shot at winning the game.
Yeah, you could actually play.
Yeah.
You could play.
If Kenny's got nothing, you actually, you have a shot.
Lavamancer Eidolon, kick it back. Let's go back on Mike Kenny. We know he's got a land left in his hand. He'll draw a card. Serum Visions.
Let's ignore that for now.
Yeah, that one's not going to do a ton.
So if Kenny attacks with everything, he does force a block. Because the Colonnade, he's got 12 in the air, plus the Geist coming across.
Yeah, this is a good attack by Mike.
I mean, this is pretty much like, I'm not sure I'm thrilled with this attack.
So I like this because it cuts Kyle off of like any white source now. Right, like you can't.
You're setting him to 1.
You're setting him to 1, yeah. And it's like, so the Vantage is off. You can't crack. You can't crack for a shock land.
That's fair.
Any of that stuff. And now you can play Serum Visions post. Basic Islands a draw. He'll scry 2.
I mean, there's a shot Boggemes gets this on the way back. You know, at 2 spikes or either haste creature plus 1 spike kills him.
Oh, you drew a Rift Bolt.
That does not help.
That's not great. He's got a Skullcrack in hand. I mean, Rift Bolt creates the domino effect that you were talking about, but it's the Colony that's the issue. That's the biggest problem here.
Right. That's actually not even. It's even hard. It's even easier to kill in this spot than I initially assumed, because if you kill 1 Spell Queller, you're getting the. I guess it's the same thing. It's neutral. But yeah, there are sequences here that allow Boggemes to win. It's not that hard, but if he's thinking, he probably doesn't have it.
Yeah. Kyle's going to try to bluff something here. I think that's all he can really do. But if I'm Mike and you don't have white mana, I'm not too scared.
Right.
The card I would be scared of most is Helix.
Yes.
In this situation. And I've done a nice job of cutting your life total, and Kyle Boggemes says there's nothing I can bluff, so he'll extend the hand. So Mike Kenny's going to win this match here over Kyle Boggemes, 2-1. Jeskai Control going to take care of Burn. On the surface, that's what you think the result would be, but when you watch the games play out, truth be told, I think maybe Kyle should have gotten this one.
Well, those were tough games. Kenny's draws were not great, I would say, across the 3 games. 3 mulligans, and he was never just casting a bunch of copies of Lightning Helix. But still, very close, very competitive games. A lot of play on both sides of the table, but just got able to pull it out.
Yeah. So